Forrest Gump has captivated viewers for decades with its beautiful plot and intriguing characters, but there's more to it. Fans were devastated and intrigued after Jenny's death. The creators have revealed that she died from hepatitis C, a disorder that was little recognized at the time. The mix of facts and fantasy in this Oscar-winning film starring Tom Hanks continues to captivate. For Lieutenant Dan, the special effects crew digitally removed Gary Sinise's legs, producing one of the most realistic visual effects of the day. And is Forrest Gump's bench in a museum due to its fame? Elvis Presley and the Doors' singles on the film's soundtrack, one of the best-selling ever, depict the era. Discover more astonishing Forrest Gump facts, behind-the-scenes magic, and cultural effects that still resonate today. Methods. That scene from Ping Pong? You were likely unaware that this was only one of the film's many cunning and clever ploys. Along with many other illusions in the movie, the scene where the ball is being struck back and forth was created using computers. Hanks was striking the air with his opponent. We got to see Forrest become famous throughout his Army years, and it was one of the most memorable sequences in the movie. The sequence has historical relevance, much like the remainder of the film, because ping-pong diplomacy was a component of President Nixon's strategy to diffuse tensions with China. Another soldier tells Forrest that the secret to winning ping-pong is to keep his eye on the ball when he initially picks up the game in the hospital. He never blinks now when he plays ping-pong after that. The principal position. A number of well-known performers declined to play Forrest Gump. When John Travolta, Bill Murray, and Chevy Chase declined to play the part, Tom Hanks was cast, and they subsequently expressed sorrow about it. John Travolta declined the part so he could shoot Pulp Fiction, the film directed by Quentin Tarantino, for which he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Travolta made the correct choice, but Chase may still regret it. His career was resurrected by the movie, which also helped him return to the A-list and get parts in future motion pictures. Even still, Travolta had regrets, as Forrest Gump dominated the 67th Academy Awards. But who doesn't like Pulp Fiction? Sally Field. Though it may not have seemed like it at the time, Tom Hanks and Sally Field, you may remember her as the mother of Forrest Gump, were just 10 years apart in age. That's the power of a well-placed gray wig and expert makeup application. Sally Field and Tom Hanks participated in Punchline, a 1988 picture where Sally played Hanks' love interest just a few years before Forrest Gump. We can only imagine Sally's thoughts when she received the call to reconcile with her previous on-screen love affair. Field plays Gump's mother throughout the movie, from when he was a little child to the present, and we assume that makes sense. Tom Hanks. Chevy Chase was not chosen for the movie. Instead, Tom Hanks was. Hanks did a fantastic job portraying Gump, and it worked out well for the movie as a whole. Hanks was rewarded not just for landing a part in a movie that won a prize, but also allowed him to pursue a career in dramatic acting. To put it mildly, Hanks had a major transformation due to the job. Even though he was already quite well known, Tom Hanks's career took off following the movie. The actor went on to get parts in almost everything, including some of our favorite romantic comedies, such as You've Got Mail, as well as intense, action-packed dramas like Steven Spielberg's classic Saving Private Ryan and animated children's favorites, Toy Story. Shirt with blue checks. Think again if you felt like you were seeing things again every time Forrest wore a blue shirt with checkered patterns. During the movie, we watch as Forrest grows up right before our eyes. We see him as a little kid, as a young adolescent, at the conclusion of his high school career, and at last as an adult. He always has a blue shirt with a checkered pattern on it. But there's a rationale behind it. Every time Gump ages, he dons this clothing, which begins to take on symbolic meaning. You stay within what you feel to be right for you. After the movie, Forrest Jr., the son of Forrest Gump, is also shown sporting a blue plaid shirt. Shut eyelids. Have you ever noticed that Forrest Gump always has his eyes closed in photos taken throughout the film? While it may seem odd, Hanks and the filmmaker created a highly convincing character with odd habits and peculiarities, which is why this continues. Hanks said he was attempting to portray someone who is very focused on being normal. In the end, Hanks chose the eccentric personality attribute. This is simply one more Easter egg we discover during the movie, along with many other little nuances. It also shows how well the performer has developed a character. Robin Wright. Robin Wright won praise from critics for her portrayal of Jenny, Forrest's love interest and childhood friend. She was nominated for a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Guild Award. The actress originally came to notice for her role as Kelly Capwell in the 1984-1988 NBC daytime serial series Santa Barbara. She earned $500,000 each episode as a star of the Netflix series House of Cards. Several well-known actresses, including Nicole Kidman, Demi Moore, and Jodie Foster, declined to portray Jenny. Where Are You, Brother? Actors often need a body double for movies' most physically demanding parts. Even if matching the actors is difficult, the business often manages to pull it off, particularly if it's just a fleeting opportunity. Fortunately for him, they needed to look at his family tree to find a plausible duplicate. In several recurring sequences, Jim, Tom Hanks's younger brother, is truly portrayed. In addition to being a terrific runner at the time, Jim Hanks had the benefit of looking much like his brother. Because of their similar speech tones, Jim not only plays Tom Hanks' body double in Forrest Gump, but he has also played his brother's part in several Toy Story video games. Thus, he can give the role to his younger brother if the renowned actor is unavailable. Scenes in Vietnam. Forrest meets activist Abby Hoffman during a visit to Washington, D.C., and she invites him to address the thousands of people gathered for the anti-war demonstration about his experiences in Vietnam. However, in what turns out to be one of the most important passages in the film, Forrest's microphone is disconnected, so viewers cannot hear what he says. Thus, during his speech at the Vietnam rally in Washington, D.C., Forrest Gump stated this: "Sometimes when people go to Vietnam, they go home to their mamas without any legs. They sometimes don't even return home. That is not good. I will stop talking about it there." People call me Forrest Gump. Everyone adores the well-known quote, "My name is Forrest Gump." People referred to me as Forrest Gump wasn't in the original draft. Robert Zemeckis, the director of the movie, enjoyed the ad-libbed phrase by Tom Hanks and decided to keep it in. Forrest says this in the part when he initially introduces himself to Bubba. Without it, we couldn't envision the movie. Although we like Gump for his many virtues, including his amazing work ethic and compassionate heart, he lacks that special suave Bond aspect. Of course, anybody who understands anything about movies will see that sentence blatantly referencing the James Bond line. "They call me Bond, James Bond." It is the reason the statement is so memorable and amusing. The debut of Haley Joel Osment. For many years, everyone's favorite on-screen youngster of the 1990s was Haley Joel Osment. His charming appearance helped him secure many parts, including dramas and thrillers. Who can forget The Sixth Sense? And it all began with Forrest Gump. When Osment was cast as Forrest's kid in this Academy Award-winning movie, he was only 6 years old, and so cute. He spoke about his experience playing Tom Hanks' son years later. Hanks was undoubtedly everyone's favorite on-screen son, according to the actor, who is now 32 and has a magnificent beard. Hanks was described as a great first cinema dad. At a very early age, Haley moved on to play in several movies. The good news is that he has graduated from Tisch School of the Arts and is still performing. Travelers make reporters. A fortunate traveler was allowed to play the lead role in an eventual American classic. The reporter who spoke with Gump on Tom Hanks' visit to Washington, D.C. to pick up his Medal of Honor wasn't an actor. He was requested to head the screenplay and was a tourist. The visitor from Atlanta was in Washington, D.C. the day with his spouse. When they spotted him, the producers requested him to read the lines. He must have read them rather well since they ultimately decided to cast him in the movie. Acting like amputee. In actual life, Gary Sinise, who portrayed the arrogant Lieutenant Dan Taylor, is not an amputee. But in the movie, he suffers injuries during the Vietnam War and loses both of his legs. He is shown as an officer who is able-bodied before the accident and as a double amputee who is in a wheelchair after it. Sinise's legs were practically erased in the editing room using special effects, props, and computer aids. To facilitate their digital removal, Sinise donned blue cloth on his legs. When Sinise first watched the final movie, he was astounded by its effects. Regarding special effects supervisor Ken Ralston and director Robert Zemeckis, he remarked, "They were constantly working it out, making sure we were shooting it the right way so we could figure out the effect later on." In conclusion, it's difficult to accept that Sinise isn't an amputee, given the effects. As I said, those were stunning, flawless effects. Real-time footage. Forrest is authentic when he is awarded a Medal of Honor. How did they accomplish it? The creators utilized Sammy Davis's original film. The video shows him accepting President Lyndon B. Johnson's Medal of Honor. Davis's body was digitally fitted with Hanks's head to create a lifelike appearance. In 1965, the real Sammy Davis enlisted in the Army after graduating high school. Following his father, who served as an artilleryman in World War II, he was assigned to the 4th Artillery and upon finishing his training, asked to be sent to Vietnam. Exactly 1 year and 1 day after the all-night fighting at My Lai on November 19, 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson presented Davis with the Medal of Honor. Bub is Ice Cube? There are rumors that Dave Chappelle and Ice Cube declined to play Gump's pal Bubba in the movie. It seems that Ice Cube, the rapper and maybe the most well-known lyricist, turned down the part because he didn't want to play a simpleton. The renowned comedian Dave Chappelle also declined the part, although he went on to co-star with Hanks in You've Got Mail. After Michael T. Williamson took the part, the people who had declined it later regretted doing so, since they believed the movie wouldn't be so popular. Even if they may have felt a little hurt by the lost chance, Chappelle and Ice Cube have both had very prosperous careers. You are only able to achieve some things. Many thanks for that. Did you think Elvis Presley sounded like him in his voice? It turns out that Kurt Russell recorded the film's dead-on impersonation. Some claim that he should have been given credit for his contributions. Still, he was observed. Russell was chosen for this role for a reason. The actor played the role of the rock and roll king in the 1979 television movie Elvis, for which he was nominated for an Emmy. Given Russell's extensive background with Elvis, we may presume he directed the movie even if he didn't earn credit for it. Trust your instincts. I just put one foot in front of the other, is the well-known quote. I go to bed when I'm exhausted, I eat when I'm hungry, when I have to go to the bathroom, I go, said a 16-year-old kid who ran for the American Cancer Society from New Jersey to San Francisco. When Louis Michael Figueroa was 16 years old and a sophomore in high school in New Jersey, he went on a foot race across the United States. In an attempt to provide hope to a 10-year-old kid suffering from cancer, he had vowed to run across America on his behalf. After completing the race in 60 days, he became the youngest and quickest person to run across the United States. Louis started jogging again 14 years later, motivated this time by his brother's AIDS diagnosis. He was fighting leukemia himself throughout this stretch. An extended day. She was feeling sick at the moment when Robin, as Jenny, played in a nightclub. Her perseverance paid off as the sequence was shot over about a day. Positively speaking, she got to sing a song of her own. The drawback was that she spent hours at a time clutching a guitar while nude. What was the outcome? A heartbreaking scene illustrating how Jenny's career didn't exactly go as planned. As brutes in the crowd heckled him, Gump intervened to show them who was in charge. Jenny feels very embarrassed by the whole situation. With a cold. You have to report ill sometimes, but not Tom Hanks. When he filmed the football running scene, the actor was ill with the flu, but he decided to pass on the bed rest. Though we're sure he tried, Tom Hanks could not do this because of schedule conflicts. Even so, he shot this classic moment with the professionalism he always has. It's a shame his brother couldn't make it for this photo. Jim could not assist him this time since it was too much of a full-on seeing-it-all picture. Tom deserves praise for a job well done. Imagine that. Forrest's scene waiting for his mother outside the principal's office was inspired by Norman Rockwell's artwork, Girl with a Black Eye, better known as The Shiner. The Saturday Evening Post's cover featuring the picture was released on May 23, 1953. Out of the 322 paintings that Rockwell created, this one ranked 277th overall and was featured on the Saturday Evening Post cover. Mary Whalen, the model, was described by Rockwell as the greatest model he had ever had. In the end, she made 3 covers for the Saturday Evening Post. Bench was removed. Most people agree that the Forrest Gump seat is as legendary as the film. Even though it's simply a bench, you can see how crucial it is to get the appropriate one since it completes the character's appearance. The creators happened to purchase it. As you may guess, that prop has been quite well known ever since. People were willing to pay a high price for the item, so the bench Tom Hanks sat on while eating his chocolate box brought a whopping $25,000 at auction in 2013. The makers maintained a genuine set. They shot the town square sequences in Savannah, Georgia. Gump often rested on a seat in Savannah, Georgia's Chippewa Square. Character variations. The literature and the movie vary in a few significant ways. Forrest is portrayed in the movie as more passive, impetuous, and innocent. We witness this in the scenario with the chocolate. However, in the novel, Gump's persona is different from this. Groom Gump is more conscious of his surroundings. Toward the novel's beginning, he claims that others treat him poorly because he is an idiot. Groom's Gump, who is reportedly 6'6" and 240 pounds, is much larger than Tom Hanks. Forrest, competing in a chess competition, becoming an astronaut, and running for the U.S. Senate are among the other things that are omitted from the movie. The Doors. 6 of the band's The Doors songs were played throughout the movie, frequently appearing on the soundtrack. Being a huge admirer of the band, director Robert Zemeckis thought their music was ideal for the tone since it captured the untamed spirit of the time. He was correct. We couldn't have imagined the movie without their music. Jim Morrison was the band's lead singer when the American rock group was founded in Los Angeles in 1965. Even though their career ended about 45 years ago, they are still well known today and have sold more than 100 million records globally. Ride Family Bus. Alexander, Zemeckis' son, and Elizabeth Hanks, Tom Hanks' daughter, both appeared in the movie. They were among the students that teased Gump on the bus. Since then, Elizabeth, E.A. Hanks, has turned her attention to writing. She worked as an associate editor at the Huffington Post and as a staff member at Vanity Fair magazine. She has also contributed to Vanity Fair, Guardian, Time, The New York Times, and other prestigious U.S. periodicals. More members of the Hanks family have entered the entertainment sector. Another well-known actor who has appeared in many movies is Colin Hanks. The Order. Winston Groom created Forrest Gump's sequel in response to the film's box office success. The follow-up was dubbed Gump and Company. To emphasize Forrest's lack of education and mental capacity to the reader, the sequel's text purposefully makes several grammatical and spelling mistakes. Eric Roth penned the script for the sequel in 2001, and Larry King referred to the book as the funniest novel I ever read. Is a movie sequel ever going to happen? Though it doesn't seem very plausible, given that the first one was released more than 25 years ago, you never know. A whole new generation may meet the Gump. The Last Name. Jenny had a last name in the movie, although it was never used to address her. It's called Curran, and it's catchable if you listen closely. You can see it on the back of the envelope that Forrest addressed to her when he was in Vietnam, even though it is never mentioned in the movie. It is inscribed on her mailbox from when she was a youngster. Finally, the letters brought to him in the hospital will have his name inscribed. She may not have used her whole name as much as Gump, but she did have one. The Accent Inspiration. The young actor who portrayed Forrest in his childhood, Michael Connor Humphrey, had an accent that director Robert Zemeckis found impossible to match, but they fell in love with it when they heard it. This influenced Tom Hanks' accent in the movie. Hanks said Humphrey spoke with a strong G and had a thick Mississippi accent. Humphreys found it difficult to mimic Hanks' accent, so Hanks resolved to attempt speaking more like the small child. Hanks said he had hours worth of tapes in which he converses with Humphreys. That demonstrates dedication. Count me in. After only 1.5 hours of reading the script, Tom Hanks agreed to star in the movie. We sent the script to Tom Hanks because he was the only one who could play it, the movie's producer Steve Starkey said. After reading it, Tom called and said, "I'm in." From then on, we knew we could make the movie. Over his career, Hanks has yet to choose the incorrect role. That might indicate that he can play anything and has excellent instincts about the role best for him. The clause on historical precision. As long as the historical events were as true as feasible, Hanks agreed to play the lead role in the movie. The film explores a difficult time in American history and incorporates several actual incidents from the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. The Watergate scandal, the Black Panther Party, the Vietnam rally, the ping pong scene, and many more. Many well-known people, including President JFK and Elvis Presley, also appeared. This makes sense since Hanks is a well-known history buff and has frequently worked with fellow history nerd, director Steven Spielberg, on several ambitious World War II projects, Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers. Touching scenes. Tom Hanks, who plays the character of Forrest in the film, reportedly sheds many tears during the film. When Lieutenant Dan, who has titanium legs, initially introduces Forrest to his wife, the actor acknowledges that he has cried. The man is not truly to fault. Almost every human feeling can be found throughout this epic journey of a movie. Wendy Feinerman, the producer, even commented on it. In a recent interview, she said, "I don't want to sound like a bad version of The Child Within, but the childlike innocence of Forrest Gump is what we all once had. It's an emotional journey. You laugh and cry. It does what movies are supposed to do, make you feel alive." Oscar-deserving show. Tom Hanks was awarded an Oscar in 1994 for his role in Forrest Gump. In addition to Best Picture, Best Director, Best Visual Effects, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, Forrest Gump won 5 other Academy Awards. The movie received 7 Golden Globe nominations. It won 3 of them, including Best Actor in a Dramatic Motion Picture, Best Director in a Motion Picture, and Best Motion Picture Drama. The movie also took home several additional honors. Filmed in Savannah. Most of the sequences in the movie were filmed in Savannah, Georgia. Fripp Island and Hunting Island in South Carolina were also used for filming. This gave the movie a genuine and historical appearance. Many of the battle sequences in the movie were filmed on Hunting Island. With over 1 million people annually, Hunting Island is now one of South Carolina's most visited state parks. Some of the Vietnam War scenes were set against the background of the Ocean Creek Golf Course on Fripp Island. With mountains digitally added to the backdrop, Forrest Gump, Bubba, and Lieutenant Dan marched through the maritime forest of Fripp Island. An effective flop. The film was not financially successful in the year of its release, even though it ended up making $678 million. Even with such a healthy profit margin, the movie was considered a successful failure. This was mainly because the principal actor and director received hefty salary checks, and the distribution fees finally came with an even more devastating price tag. As a consequence, Paramount Pictures lost $62 million in the end, and it was with a budget of $55 million. Some claimed that distribution fees were too avaricious and kept more money than was required. People sometimes want to share in the spoils when a movie is this amazing. Numerous interpretations. A feather is flying in the air at the movie's start. There are several ways to understand what this may imply. Some saw it as representing Forrest's gentle and nomadic personality, comparable to a feather flying in the wind. Nevertheless, you want to interpret it. This sequence is among the most potent and provocative in movie history, and it effectively establishes the tone for the whole movie. He further emphasizes this point in his comment about the chocolate, saying, "You never know what you're going to get." Receives a sermon. Although McKelty Williamson was fortunate to get cast as Bubba in the movie, the role he portrayed in Forrest Gump subsequently caused him problems being cast in other movies. It seems Bubba's lip abnormality was caused by a prosthetic lip device that Williamson utilized during shooting, something the entertainment industry was unaware of. Because of this, even though Williamson had acted in over 10 episodes before the movie, he wasn't acknowledged for them. It wasn't easy, but he got cast in movies like Heat and Con Air in the end. Dave Chappelle. Speaking lightheartedly on The Daily Show, Dave Chappelle expressed his distaste for the movie due to Forrest Gump's low IQ was superior to him as an actor. Be aware of Chappelle's humor. The well-known comedian has an outstanding IQ of 185. During his interview with Stewart, Chappelle continued to voice his disapproval of the movie, claiming that it infuriated him to watch a guy with a mental illness succeed in life when physically healthy individuals face such hardships. Fortunately, he stayed out of it. Connor selects profession. One of Michael Connor Humphrey's few motion pictures was Forrest Gump. Eventually, the young Forrest Gump gave up acting to enlist in the Army. He received a Young Artist Award nomination for his performance in the movie. In 1993, he attended an open casting call in Memphis, Tennessee, and was cast for the part. The producers entered the room wondering precisely what they wanted. They only knew they needed to witness a youthful, light-eyed, eccentric Tom Hanks. They very certainly discovered that in Humphreys. Music from America. Forrest would never have tolerated anything less than American musicians, hence every song in the movie is an American tune. On July 30th, 1994, the movie's soundtrack shot up to the 7th position on the Billboard 200 albums list, from position number 34 to number 7. This was undoubtedly one of the elements that turned Forrest into a genuine national hero. The songs continued to rise in the charts. It went from 7th to 3rd on August 6, 1994, and stayed there for a week. On August 13, 1994, it peaked at number 2 on the charts, where it stayed for 7 weeks until September 17, 1994. 15 Dr. Peppers. In the scene when Forrest and his All-American college teammates visit JFK at the White House, he drinks 15 Dr. Peppers out of nerves and courtesy for the complimentary food and beverages. It is, he claims, the nicest aspect of meeting the U.S. president. The president asks each of the teammates what it means to be an All-American as they line up to see him. When Forrest has a chance to talk, he informs the president he needs to go pee because he has had too many Dr. Peppers. All of his teammates responded by saying something like, "So good," or something similar. Book to movie. Turning a book into a movie is difficult as usual. Gump's narrative was one of those where a lot gets omitted. Only 11 of the 24 chapters of Winston Groom's original book are particularly highlighted in the movie. Nevertheless, the production firm hesitated to adapt the whole thing because they thought it would be too similar to Dustin Hoffman's Rain Man, which won an Oscar. Originally a screenplay, Warner Brothers acquired the casting rights to Forrest Gump. They agreed by giving Forrest Gump the script in return for an executive decision, and they also paid Paramount an additional $400,000. Real jewelry. The necklace that Jack Tressé, the brother-in-law of Gary Sinise, wore in Vietnam in 1967 to 1968, is the source of Lieutenant Dan's necklace in the movie. The words, "Protect us in combat," are engraved on the necklace. Over the years, Sinise has done a great deal of work to support veterans. The actor even founded the Gary Sinise Foundation to support these courageous guys. Every year, the Gary Sinise Foundation, his charity, raises $30 million for veterans. The organization also oversees a housing project for the severely injured, whereby 54 smart houses have been constructed thus far, with 16 more in the planning stages. He even received an honorary Marine title in 2013 from Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C. House of Gump. Are you hoping to go to Forrest Gump's house? Regretfully, it will be impossible for you to locate. The house was demolished after the movie. However, the location where it was created is still visible since it is a genuine site. Situated on the Bluff Plantation on Twickenham Road, southeast of Yemassee on the Combahee River between Farmville and Beaufort in Alabama, the Gump property and Jenny's farmhouse were constructed. Unfortunately, the home was constructed just for the film and was demolished immediately after, although it still appeared like a large traditional Southern farmhouse. These homes are prevalent across the South, particularly in that area. The bus stops. The bus stop scene was filmed at Savannah, Georgia's Chippewa Square. The oldest city in the state of Georgia is Savannah. Founded 1733 as a British colony, the town subsequently served as Georgia's first state capital. The city served as a vital harbor during the American Revolution and the American Civil War. Despite Savannah's lengthy history, the movie is why visitors visit the city. A Forrest Gump tour of the city is also an option. The genuine bench featured in the movie may be found in museums, so check them out. Chippewa Square. It makes sense that Chippewa Square is now a major tourist destination in the city. Thousands of visitors have gathered in the area to remember the film since its premiere. Interesting fact, the traffic pattern around the plaza was changed to allow the bus door to enter Chippewa Plaza. It was certainly a gorgeous setting. Shrimp Bubba Gump. The movie was an American cultural phenomenon that sparked a lot of ideas. Among them was the Bubba Gump restaurant franchise. Only a few years after the movie's premiere, in 1996, the chain of shrimp restaurants debuted. The only similarity to the movie is the characters' names, Forrest Gump and Benjamin Buford Bubba Blue. The restaurant business, Bubba, has expanded significantly since it first opened, and it now serves patrons both domestically and internationally with outlets in China, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, and Indonesia. Scripts remaining unused. Initially, because Groom authored the novel, the producers planned to utilize his screenplay. Sadly for him, it was ultimately dropped in favor of a screenplay written by a real screenwriter. And that author was none other than Eric Roth. Roth created the final screenplay, for which he ultimately won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay with the assistance of a few other screenwriters. Afterward, Roth co-wrote the scripts for Munich, The Insider, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. The hurricane scene. The Port Royal, South Carolina Ports Authority provided the boat storm scene. Storm Carmen, which struck the U.S. coast of the Gulf of Mexico in early September 1974, was a significant Atlantic storm that devastated Bayou La Battre's shrimping business. Jenny, the boat owned by Forrest Gump, was at sea during the storm. Even though it took a hit, unlike other ships, it wasn't flung to shore, and as a result, after the storm, Forrest's company flourished as there wasn't any other competition. The first edition. The Winston Groom novel was less popular than the movie, despite being a great hit on the page. Originally, just 30,000 copies of the book were sold. As is well known, the movie brought in a sizable sum of money. 1.6 million copies of the film were sold after its premiere. Groom believed he had been defrauded of his money. Ultimately, the business gave Groom over $1 million for the rights to Gump and Company, the book's sequel. Conflicting opinions. Both critics and admirers of the movie existed after the premiere. Many were quite against the movie, even though many appreciated it for capturing such important historical moments, how they related to Gump's endearing persona, and how it touched our emotions. Some reviewers thought the movie had too many corny catchphrases and was too romantic. Some thought it was a sign of status, while others detested it as the source of a fast food chain's moniker. Nevertheless, the majority of people enjoyed the movie despite some negative feedback. Apple Incorporated. Lieutenant Dan uses Gump's money to invest in Apple Incorporated in the film. Although the amount spent is unknown to the viewers, it is reasonable to assume that he would have eventually made millions of dollars. Apple is profitable at a rate of $1,444 every second, or $5.2 million an hour, $127 million a day, or $45.7 billion annually. Forrest gains some money from his investment. Clinking coin sound. According to director Robert Zemeckis, the film's soundtrack should start with the sound of loose coins clinking in Gump's pocket as he runs. But the original film was released without any sound effects. Later, an updated version, including the noises, was made available. Given the importance of sound editing in filmmaking, it's surprising that a version without sound effects made it to the big screen. Fortunately, it came later. Even though it can seem like a trivial detail, the little things are what count. A rewritten account. To commemorate the 20th anniversary of the movie's premiere, a recut version of Forrest Gump was shown in cinemas. Everything is the same, but thanks to modern technology, you may have a better, more immersive watching experience. A large number of admirers flocked to watch the updated version. If they adored it more than 20 years ago, people went wild for it today. Both the image and the sound were more crisp. The President. Though there are always wild conspiracy ideas floating around, this one wins. Many think the film was made to promote Trump, but the film was cut to make it seem like it was telling a tale when he decided not to run for president. Though it would seem ludicrous to believe that he would have known more than 20 years in advance that he would be running for president, this had always been his lifelong ambition. Who knows? What may be implied by the message? Well, nobody can say for sure. Several special effects. Throughout the movie, many special effects allow Forrest to meet dead presidents. The movie seems more realistic as a result. The film contained elaborate visual effects, which were made possible by Ken Ralston and his crew at Industrial Light and Magic. As a result, it went on to win an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. To capture the voices of historical characters and to show Gump meeting departed personas, the movie used computer-generated imagery, CGI, in conjunction with voice actors and special effects to modify lip-syncing for the new conversation. Rest in peace, Jenny. In the movie, Jenny portrays Forrest's spouse and lover. She passed away in 1982 after being born in 1945. His childhood buddy, Jenny, is the one he falls in love with right away. Having experienced abuse at the hands of her father as a youngster, Jenny chooses a different route in life than Forrest, participating in self-destructive habits and joining the counterculture of the 1970s and 1980s. She makes many appearances throughout Forrest's life as an adult. After a while, Jenny settles down and works as a waitress in Savannah, Georgia. She shares an apartment with Forrest Jr., her son, and Forrest. After they ultimately tie the knot, the commonly accepted narrative is that she passes away from problems brought on by AIDS shortly after. Foot of Gump. The well-known feather seems random as it drifts about and lands wherever it pleases. Yet as the movie ends, nothing is random, and every trip has a goal. Paradoxically, the feather intended to symbolize Forrest's life lands exactly where it should, next to the foot of our hero. It is believed that Gump may now be conscious of all the unpredictability life offers at this particular time. It may also represent the challenges he faced and conquered throughout his lifetime. Perhaps he is as light as a bird? A movie's brilliance lies in its ability to convey your chosen message. The death of Jenny. As Jenny passed away in the 1982 movie, she was a party girl who entered the counterculture and joined the hippie movement in the 1960s and 1970s. After ultimately changing her ways and being married to Forrest, she relapsed once again. Unfortunately, once Gump Jr. was born, Jenny ended up with AIDS as a result of her careless actions. How her son and Forrest did not understand it is the key mystery. To put it plainly, She got it after giving birth to her baby, which immediately cleared them. That refutes that hypothesis, and the script makes this very plain. Still, not all of it is straight from the screenplay. Actors sometimes eloquently imitate famous scenes. These famous sayings were performed on the spot by performers.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon